Ryoko Segikuchi has been my obsession for over a year now, and although I've talked about her non-stop on my Bookstagram, I realized I haven't actually mentioned her on my booktube. So now it's time to change that, because every book I've read by her has been an absolute hit, and Call of the Smells is no exception. Ryoko is Japanese, educated in journalism and in history of art at the Sorbonne, and then comparative literature and cultural studies at the University of Tokyo. And this shows, because like an artist, her writing is absolutely vivid, delightfully rich, and at the same time thought-provoking, engaging in its analysis. Like a journalist, she reports on the senses in a fine example of brilliant and utterly engrossing journalism, but at the same time, like a scholar, it's more than just reporting, it's engaging with the topic and making us, the reader, want to engage with the topic. Like a true scholar of literature, she references many works, criticizing and ironizing the human condition throughout, and she's truly a master of the senses. And I do not say this to flatter, and I do not say this lightly, because her works on food are some of the most impressive works I have ever read in the way that they tackle senses, the experiences, the way that they capture the freshness of an ingredient, and the way that it can transport you somewhere, the way that it can utterly change you physically, spiritually, when you experience it, when you taste it for the first time. And if Belina's place were to happen, she would be my ultimate inspiration. It is insulting to call her a foodie. She is the foodie. And in exploring dishes, she also explores the culture and the things that they say about a person and how they were prepared. She's also done some incredibly unique and inspiring work, like writing labels for vintage wines from the Bordeaux region, and also writing captions for the Musée d'Orsay for the paintings that accompany them. She also had an experience where she prepared a banquet out of exclusively seasonal ingredients. And this is all necessary context for you to understand what I mean when I say she knows her senses well. But taste aside, in this newest collection, she moves away from taste. She moves to something without which taste would not be the same: scent, smells, perceiving something even before you touch it. All of the smells available, unfortunately not in English, but in French and Russian and Japanese, because those are the languages she predominantly publishes with. I know there are some translations into German and Spanish, so I'm sorry if this is not available in your language yet, but please wait for it, because this is so worthwhile, because Call of the Smells explores everything in a variety of incredible, extravagant tales, from tales of lovers to deceased friends to comfort women in the war to a runaway smell that you felt once in a subway, and then the library, and then the museum, and the things they make us feel and what they say about us. Every story, every smell almost embodies a new personality, a new character. The novel blends fiction and autobiography, and it creates an absolutely phantasmagorical mix of stories that astound you with their depth and also the breadth which they cover, akin to 1001 Nights, because the way that Ryoko Sekiguchi can write not just about a smell, but about a single character in just a few words, in just a line, never ceases to astound and impress throughout. Her literary genius, coupled with her artistic ability to paint these images in the reader's minds, is truly what makes this impressive and unforgettable. There are so many stories which live in my head rent-free, which I just cannot forget. For example, one is the story of a woman with a lover who wishes to seduce him, and they're friends currently, and she knows that if they cross that boundary, it's forever irreparable. And so she knows that he likes classical music, and she listens to it on repeat until she's able to distill the sounds into a smell to create her own perfume and to seduce him. Another story of a woman who thought that she found a lover who's true and honest and genuine, and every night he smells so fabulous and he covers himself with perfume until she realizes that he's never let her smell his true self. The way Ryoko weaves all these situationships amidst her escapades of food tasting and meeting with friends and experts in the industry, from perfume from to the main nose of the Cartier collection, to really anyone who's in any way involved with aesthetics. And she also blends it with the pain of losing her sense of smell, for someone like Ryoko incredibly important after a car accident. But she also intercepts this with notes from her diary, and the messages that she had in her diary, just little notes, just little tiny jots in the margin that prompted her to explore an idea further, that she's now sharing with us. And it just feels so incredibly honest, because it's a blend of everything, the ups and downs, the love, the loss, just every sort of smell, every sort of possibilities endlessly explored. And as someone who also keeps a diary of random thoughts that come to mind that I can expand on and write later, this feels like Ryoko's tearing away a part of her heart, a part of her inner workings, a part of her brain, and just gifting it to us on a platter and saying, look, this is what I keep thinking about when I'm thinking about smells. For example, she asks, what does sadness smell of? What about secrets? Or what about the moment when our heart flutters, waiting for another? Let's not go into my personal feelings about this one because Ryoko gets personal enough for you, for me, for everyone. Touching, profound, this is a collection to savor. Her books I wish to collect as pointers, as marks of emphasis in my life, because they always seem to find me at the right moment in time. And whenever a new book comes out, I get the Russian translation because it's hard for me to get the original French sometimes. And Ad Marginum, my favorite independent Russian press, publishes brilliant, like delightfully so. I've done a comparison translation of her works, which I trust 100%. And every time that I buy her book, every time I read it, it seems to come perfectly into my life at the exact moment when I need it most. And just after Nagori, which I'm sure you've seen my Instagram post, this was the beginning of a season, the beginning of my first year as a university student, and now we have Call of the Smells to accompany me towards the end of my year. And it's just, Call of the Smells is more artsy, more experimental. It's everything I wanted to see in Nagori even more fleshed out because Nagori was so short that I found myself aching when it was over. It was genuinely ironic how much I missed it and how much the book talked about seasonality and like, oh, the good thing is that even though it's a frail short experience, you'll come back to it in another season. And yet I find myself missing Nagori and thinking about that book because it was genuinely heart-wrenching to stop reading it because it was such a delight and such a pleasure. And now we have Call of the Smells to present to us. And Call of the Smells also feels like a more mature version of Ryoko's writing because Call of the Smells moves away from the first person personal and moves to the third person. And I know when people will say, oh, it's pretentious, like, oh, it's not really as personal from her, it's trying to do the most. But I think it's a branching out for Ryoko, and I'm here for this new direction because she has enough ambiguity in the stories to leave it open-ended, to leave us to think about it similar to her other books. This is Japan. You don't have closed endings. You have thought-provoking openings for you to fill in, to think about your ending yourself. So when we have a new collection from Ryoko of all these fleeting and temporary smells, I can't help but think that the book itself is like a perfume, one that you smell once in your life walking into the elevator from someone who's gone before you, someone you never see again, someone you never know. And that smell is delightful and it's just about to fade away. And you're standing there in the elevator and it's lingering and you're smelling it and you know you'll never smell it again. And you can never know what the smell is, but you can't help but live life looking for it because it was just such a poignant marker, such an emphasis. And I think Call of the Smells is just such a book because it's one which you read and you feel and it inspires you to change your life, as cliche as it sounds. After reading Ryoko's works, you become an aesthete. There's no other way to say this. If you truly appreciate her writing and if you let yourself be carried away and if you were initially from the onset the right type of person for this work, it's just something that takes you by the hand and opens your eyes because I started savoring food more. I started spraying my favorite perfume and never waiting for the right occasion. I walk around and I track things in my visual diary and I notice more things. I notice the way that the sun glistens on the leaves and I'm inspired to take a photo even if it will never see the light of day and it's just for myself. And it's so random, like a corner of a building, because it's just inspiring to build your visual diary because Ryoko teaches you to appreciate your senses and to understand the true beauty of getting to experience the world as it is. And so when books like this come along, books that have the potential to transform the way you see life itself, as cliche as this does sound, you grab on and you don't let go. All of the Smells is a lot less analytical and more creative than some of her other works, and I personally enjoyed that. But I don't think you should start with that, because I suppose you should build up to it, and I'm sure that for many of the people who see this video, which is also why I was inspired to make it, it'll be your first encounter with Ryoko because she just isn't as popular, unfortunately, in England, or in the US or in other English speaking countries because of the lack of translation, which is just so incredibly frustrating. I don't know why they haven't translated it. Why am I the one doing the most? Why am I the one translating the quotes into English for my Instagram to share this with you? Because it's so worth it. And I think you need to work up to Call of the Smells by first starting with Nagori. So if you speak another language, please start with Nagori, or please like try and find a translation. I hope it will become available soon. And then go to Call of the Smells. And I think her work is literally like a Michelin meal. You should start, for starters, with Nagori, and then for the main, you should have all of the essays in between and all of her different interesting takes. I'm still waiting to read 961 Hours in Beirut. That's the one I'm saving for a while. And then after that, go to Call of the Smells as the culmination of it. And I'm lucky because like her works have been coming out consistently translated into Russian, and I've managed to get my hands onto these just somehow. When I don't manage to get my hands on the Russian copy, I get my hands on the French. Like, it's been working out. So I just hope this keeps on being the case, and I hope that eventually she will become translated. I'd be honestly happy to like volunteer for the job. But genuinely, I adore Ryoko Segikuchi's writing, and this video is sort of my attempt to tell you that if you have the chance, if you have the linguistic ability, to go check out her books, because this is genuinely incredible and it has done wonders for me and for my creative perception. And it's a beautiful, beautiful work to read in any period. If you're reading this in the summer, it will inspire you to use your summer creatively. If you're reading this in the autumn or in the winter, this might be your prompt to get out of your rut and start being creative again. So thank you so much for watching this review. Call of the Smells, absolute delight. Thank you, Ed Markinum, for continuing to publish this. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll see you next week.